Are there going to be tariffs? Is it going to happen? What's it going to be? What's the result going to be? I mean, at the end of the day, the result is, if that does happen, the result is going to be negative.
Absolutely.
We just don't know how negative it's going to be, right?
The housing market thrives on stability. And as economic uncertainty enters into the housing market, it can quickly disrupt both home buyers and home builders. With potential economic challenges looming, such as higher interest rates, inflation, a potential recession looming in Canada, not to mention the threat of tariffs from the United States, home builders may choose to scale back on the new projects that they're beginning to start, fearing a quick decrease in buyer demand. Not to mention, the home buyers may feel a lack of buyer confidence as well with this economic uncertainty, and they may choose to sit on the sidelines longer before making a purchase. And these factors could have serious implications within our Halifax housing market, and it could affect the overall conditions and how 2025 plays out. The truth is, nobody really knows where the market is headed in 2025, but one thing is for certain. There is a ton of uncertainty as we move ahead into this year, both economically and politically. Last week, I sat down with Ryan from Stonewater Homes and had a chat with him about the overall housing market. And I'm going to roll you a clip from this podcast that I think you'll find pretty interesting, that talks about uncertainty in the market and what some of the potential implications could be as a result of this. But just before I get into it, if you're new here, my name is Andrew Stevens. I've been a realtor in Halifax for 10.5 years. And if you want to be educated on the Halifax real estate market, then hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And if you're thinking about making a move in the Halifax and surrounding area and you'd like to get in touch with me to help you, you can reach out to me anytime in the Calendly link below. Yep.
And so, the real estate market doesn't like uncertainty.
Exactly.
Because developers don't like uncertainty. And builders don't like uncertainty.
Yep.
And when things are uncertain, we all clam up, right? We all put our hands in our pockets and we go, I think I'll see where this is going before I start jamming more foundations in the ground.
Yeah.
And new construction drives every real estate market. It doesn't matter where you live. If there's new construction is what pulls everything along. And that's what they're always talking about. When you talk stats and we talk new builds and population increase versus number of new units and all, that's all new construction related. Yeah. And the uncertainty is not good. Yeah. Regardless of where it goes, there's lots of speculation, and we could all speculate as to, are there going to be tariffs? Is it going to happen? What's it going to be? What's the result going to be? I mean, at the end of the day, the result is, if that does happen, the result is going to be negative.
Absolutely.
We just don't know how negative it's going to be, right? And none of us know. That's kind of like when people speculate, you alluded to it earlier, where people might speculate where the real estate market is going. Nobody knows that.
No, well, right? And that's the hilarious part for me, right? Is like, so I do a predictions video every year, and to be honest, a lot of it is for my own entertainment to look back on it. Sure. And last year I was like 4 for 5. I was like, I did pretty good. It's a miracle, right? But in some other years I've been way off. But here's the reality: right before the pandemic, or when the pandemic was kind of getting going, like, all the world economists were wrong.
Right.
That they literally get paid to forecast that, and they were wrong. Like, all these like chief economists at the banks and all that, like, none of them said, our housing prices were going to double in 3 years, right?
That's right?
Like, none of them said that.
That's
so
right.
It's just funny when, people can bash that all they want, but at the end of the day, nobody knows where it's going. I don't care what your job is. Everybody's going to have their own opinion, and that's fine, but nobody knows how 2025 is going to shape up until we get to December 31st. That's right. Realistically.
And especially, nobody knows where the real estate market is going to go and how it's going to react.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, you can look at trends and you can look at historical information and how it compares to what's going on now. But again, with this level of uncertainty, certainly nobody knows what's going to happen with the real estate market.
Yeah.
And when things are uncertain, people slow it down. I've spoken to a number of home builders and developers recently in the last few weeks, and of course, this conversation around, the new the Trump administration in the U.S. and this gong show that we have going on here with the Liberal Party, and so, but we're all on the same page. None of us are political experts, but we're all looking at each other and saying the same thing, which is, we might just pull the reins in for a minute until we see what's going to take place, and it's probably going to be until sometime after we have an election before we'll have any sense of where that goes.
Yeah.
Because, it's no, even when you talk about, especially the larger developers who are,
Yep.
building hundreds of units at a time, they might be starting, apartment buildings with hundreds of units. They're not going to do that not knowing what's coming down the road,
Yep.
right? They, especially in the last few years, they dealt with COVID.
Yeah.
And they dealt with almost an overnight increase of interest rates. You start a $20 million apartment building and, you think you're borrowing money at 2% or 2.5% or 3%, and then you're borrowing at 6%.
Yeah.
And that entire project could be upside down financially before you even finish it.
Yeah, and 2 points on an interest rate at a $30 million build is a big difference,
Yes,
right?
it's huge.
It's not like a $200,000
Exactly.
home that you're building. It's big money, right?
That's right.
It changes the whole game.
That's right.
And that's the reality, right? So it's like back to the high rent thing. It's like, well, why are the rents high, right? And it's a pretty easy answer. It's because it costs a lot of money to build. Like these developers aren't all of a sudden, doubling their profit margin. It has nothing to do with that. It's probably the same. It might even be worse. I don't know what those numbers look like, but